Some interesting legal news that I want to go over relating to the ongoing legal troubles of the failed former president and his associates. First and foremost, very interesting report from Bloomberg. Prosecutors believe that they have the evidence to charge Donald Trump on the basis of the investigation connected to the search warrant served at Mar-a-Lago. Let's take a look at this Bloomberg report. Trump prosecutors see evidence for obstruction charges. No decision on charges has been made by DOJ in records probe. That's an important detail. A bunch of tweets were floating around yesterday. Sometimes I wonder, can people actually read news articles? As soon as this was published yesterday, all sorts of tweets started floating around. A decision has been made. Trump is getting charged. The subheadline is no decision on charges has been made in that records probe. Timing, politics, and debate over charges are among the considerations. And that's an area of significant concern that we should all be worried about. And we will get to it in a moment. Here's what Bloomberg writes. A group of Justice Department prosecutors believe there is enough evidence to charge Trump with obstruction of justice, but the path to an actual indictment is far from clear. The team that's part of the classified records probe has not yet made a formal recommendation to Merrick Garland, who would ultimately approve or reject such a move, according to people familiar with the matter. It's also unlikely officials would bring only obstruction charges amid several other Trump investigations into potential crimes. Now, this is the part that I don't love. In addition, while some FBI agents oppose bringing such a politically charged case as Trump considers a 2024 presidential bid, others support action, said the people who asked for anonymity because this is not yet public. Agents, however, don't make final decisions. The Justice Department has publicly indicated obstruction is part of its probe into the mishandling of classified records, noting there was probable cause for the charge in the August 5 FBI search warrant application for Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. No charges are likely to be filed or publicly revealed before the November 8 elections, and perhaps only after the Christmas holiday, the people said. One other note here. Frank Figliuzzi, former FBI assistant director for counterintelligence, said, quote, of all the things Trump is being investigated for around the country, obstruction of justice is a slam dunk, and I think he's going to be indicted. I don't see why a charge of obstruction of justice couldn't be filed by the end of the year. So listen, charge him. It's time. OK, we've had enough of this. It's really simple. Forget about Georgia, forget about SDNY, just focusing on this case investigation alone. Did authorities know that Trump had these files and then they went to him and said, you've got to return these files? Yes, they knew he had them and they asked for those files to be returned. Did Donald Trump return them? The answer is no. We know that because they found files when they executed the search warrant at Trump's Mar-a-Lago. Do we now know that Donald Trump was aware that they had files, directed staff to move them, directed a lawyer to lie and claim that they had been given back? I mean, all of these obstructive acts. Yes, 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 yes. So is it time for an indictment? Of course it is. Of course it is. Now, what I'm not thrilled about is this discussion about FBI agents do or don't want the charges levied because it could impact the midterms. So they're going to wait until later. But then it could impact Trump if he decides to run in 2024 or whatever. Listen, if there are charges that follow logically from the evidence, not charging Trump because it might have a political impact is just a decision as saying, let's charge him in order to make it have a political impact. The apolitical thing to do here is that those in law enforcement look at the evidence, they compare the evidence to the law, and they decide, is there sufficient evidence that a law was broken such that we are going to levy charges? You don't calculate the timing based on political effect or whatever else. Think back to the 2016 election, by the way, where then FBI Director James Comey did one press conference about Hillary Clinton's emails. And then as far as we knew, that was it. There weren't going to be charges coming, et cetera, et cetera. And then right before the 2016 election, for some reason that we still don't really understand, James Comey does another press conference about Hillary's emails. And we now believe we can't say any one thing led to Trump winning and Hillary losing. but it was certainly another little factor that served as a reminder of, oh yeah, that thing, even though obviously no charges are coming, that may have pushed some people away from Hillary Clinton and to Donald Trump. If there was any politically oriented, politically motivated timing for the FBI doing something, it would be that. Here, we have enough probable cause for the search warrant to be executed. We now have, colloquially speaking, as lay people, all of the elements that make up obstruction by Donald Trump, knowingly directing people to lie and hide documents, all these different things. And at this point, this idea of, well, we don't necessarily want to charge him because it might affect a future run for president he hasn't even announced. Well, opting not to charge for that very reason is also a politically motivated decision, and it's absolutely pathetic. It is just as politically charged not to charge someone because it might hurt their chances at winning an elected office as it is to say, well, let's deliberately charge him now. If the evidence is there and the investigation has been completed and it points to this person likely committed this crime, then you just have to levy charges and that's it. We will see if it happens. It's not going to happen before the November election. It's abundantly clear at this point in time. But if and when it happens, when will it be? I often have a very hectic schedule and I don't always have the time to plan the exact nutrition of all of my meals. But our sponsor, Athletic Greens, just makes it easy to make sure I'm getting the nutrients I want. I've been using it for almost a year now and it's great. AG1 by Athletic Greens is a delicious plant-based blend of 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, and probiotics from whole food sources. If I have just one small scoop of AG1 a day, I know I'm getting the nutrition and nutrients that I want that support all of the things that are important to me. The only alternative would be to take 20 different vitamin pills and things every day. I'm not doing that. I don't want to do that. AG1 is super tasty. You can put it in a smoothie. I drink it straight. Achieving good nutrition and feeling your best does not have to be complicated. You can make AG1 part of your daily routine the way I have done. When you go to athleticgreens.com/Pacman, you will get a 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs. The link is down below.